It's Quentin here, and this is Bootstrap tutorial number 3. And in this tutorial I am going to show you guys how to download Bootstrap and add it to your website the local way. Okay, so to download Bootstrap you're going to go over to getbootstrap.com. So go ahead and click download. That is going to download a zip file for you, and once that's done you should have a zip file in your downloads folder on your computer. So mine is over here, Bootstrap 3.3.2 distribution. Okay, so if I go ahead and open up my Finder and we go over to my downloads, okay, there we go. That is the zip file. I can go ahead and unzip that and I can use these files somewhere else. So what I'm going to do is actually open up this folder, and I'm going to copy all three of those folders. It's a CSS folder, a fonts folder, and a JavaScript folder. And I'm going to go over to my desktop, where I can't just click on my desktop anymore. Getting used to Mac is kind of hard for me. Okay, and I'm actually just going to paste it in the same file or in the same folder as my index file. Okay, so I'm actually still using the folder from the previous tutorial, and I'm going to go ahead now and hit paste, and that is going to paste the CSS folder, which has a bunch of different CSS files. Okay, and you'll notice we've got the bootstrap theme.css. We've also got bootstrap theme.min.css, and the difference between these two is that this is raw CSS. You guys can open this and read it and edit it if you like, but you actually really don't want to edit these files. These files are actually not for editing, so don't edit them, but maybe just read them, take a look and see how Bootstrap works. This is just the theme. And then the .min version of CSS, if you guys ever try and open these files up, you're going to notice that the code is all compressed and squashed up, and what they actually did was they just took all the spaces out of the code and minified it. So that is where this .min comes from in the name. So they minified the CSS file to be as small as it could possibly be, so it takes up the least amount of space and it loads fast on the server. And that's why we will more often use the .min.css files, just because they're smaller in size and they're going to load a lot faster because all the spaces were taken out. Okay, then we also have bootstrap.css and bootstrap.min.css. Again, same explanation for these two as we have for these two. Okay, if you want to edit Bootstrap, or if you ever want to read Bootstrap, you can go ahead and read that file. This file is going to be pretty much unreadable. Okay, fonts. We've got a few different fonts that Bootstrap actually provides, such as icons, etc. So if you guys ever want to make use of these, I'll probably explain them in a future video. And there's a bunch of documentation on Bootstrap's website on how to use those icons. Okay, and the last folder we have over here contains all the JavaScript files. So we've got bootstrap.js and bootstrap.min.js. Same explanation that applied to the others applies here. If you want to read through the JavaScript file and see how they wrote their code, you can go ahead and read this one. But the .min version is going to load faster, and not only is it going to load faster, it's going to be unreadable as well. So there's a good chance that no one will edit the .min.js file just because they won't be able to read the code. Okay, now one thing that we're missing before we can actually start hosting our local files is to actually get a copy of jQuery. Okay, so what you need to do is go over to jQuery's website. So instead of using this CDN from Google, what I actually did was I went over to jQuery's website, which is jQuery.com, and I went to the download page. So jQuery.com/downloads. That's going to take you to this downloads page where you can pick a version of jQuery that you want. So I'm just going to go ahead and use the compressed version of jQuery, which is the same as a minified version of those other files that we were talking about just now. So go ahead and click on this compressed link. That's going to open up a file like this or a web page like this. And this is just a JavaScript file or a jQuery file that has been minified. So this is what a minified file looks like. There are no spaces at all. It looks like a bunch of gibberish. No one's ever going to edit this, but it does load faster, which is a nice thing, and that's why we use these files on our website. So go ahead and hit Control A, and I'm hitting Command A, by the way, Command C, and that is going to copy everything. Okay, and you can go over to your editor, create a new file, and save this in the appropriate place. So I'm going to go ahead and hit paste, and that's pasted the entire jQuery file or the contents of that jQuery file. And now we can save that, and I want to save it in tutorial 1, and I'm going to save it in this JS folder. So let's call it jQuery.min.js. Okay, and that is going to save our file. Okay, and we can now jump back over to my Finder over here, and as you can see, I have jQuery.min.js inside of the same folder as all of my Bootstrap files. So let's just take a look at that one last time. If I go to my desktop and I go to tutorial 1, we've got our index file, we've got our CSS folder, fonts folder, and JS folder. And in this JS folder, that's where I just saved my jQuery file. Okay, so everything is relative to this index file. Okay, so we've got an index file here, and if we want to go into one of these folders, we're just going to go / and the folder name. Okay, so this is where file paths are important, because now we're going to change all of these links to link to our local files instead of linking to the external file on the CDN. So these hrefs all need to change now. Okay, and the CSS files, like we saw before, are now no longer on the CDN. We've actually got them hosted on our computer, so I can go ahead and remove everything from HTTPS to 3.2.2, and that's going to leave us with the correct file path, because I pasted all my folders in the same folder as my index file. Okay, if you guys pasted them somewhere else, you're going to have to make sure your URL or your href reflects that. But as long as you've pasted them in the same place that I have, in other words, you pasted them right here like this. So we've got index, then we've got CSS, fonts, JS. If you did that, perfect. Okay, so let's go back over to the script, and we can do the same thing over here. Get rid of everything from HTTPS to the version number, and let's just go ahead and put that / back in there. So that one actually needs to go into JS, because I saved it in the JavaScript folder, and I saved it as jQuery.min.js, so that should work. And then one last one, we just have to get rid of that version number as well. Okay, and we're looking for the Bootstrap JavaScript file inside of the JavaScript folder, which is over there. Okay, so now if I hit Command S, that should save everything. And now we can go ahead and test this out by jumping back over to our file, which I've already closed. Okay, so let me open up this index.html file, and everything opens up and works exactly like it did in the last tutorial, it means we've done everything right. So let me say open with Firefox, and immediately I can see something's wrong here because we're not loading jQuery, or we're not loading Bootstrap, sorry. So let's take a look at what might be wrong. We're going, okay, so these slashes actually aren't supposed to be there. My mistake. The whole time I'm telling you to put them there, and we don't actually want them there. Okay, so slash, having a slash beforehand means we need to go back to the root directory and then into a JavaScript folder. So that might work on a server, and that it's probably the proper way to do it on a server, but this is on my local machine and on my desktop. So we need a relative file path, meaning that everything needs to be relative to our index file. So our index file is here. The next thing we're looking for is our CSS files, which are in the CSS folder. So we're just going CSS. We're not using a / at all. And then inside that CSS folder, we're looking for bootstrap.min.js, etc. Okay, so now that I don't have those /, this should work. And look at that. Look how fast that loaded as well, because it's on my local server. And now we can go ahead and click on this, and the button disappears as well. So everything that we did over here is correct, and now we are hosting our own local version of Bootstrap and jQuery.